Hey folks, I'm continuing hold on, let me press the right thing here. Bloop, bloop. Happy birthday, Haschi. We're continuing our work on the character art commission for your birthday. Glad you're alive. Thanks for being here. Let's see. I have to apologize. I had to take some personal time to myself yesterday, and sometimes that personal time means painting without being on stream. So you can see that I've made some considerable progress on the Artificer, and my sincerest apologies that it's not recorded for you to view. Sometimes I just need time to myself. But we're still here, and we're still doing the thing. So that's what we're going to work on right now. So let's dive into these limbs and finish making this guy look awesome. And then we'll swap over. Then we will switch over to start work on the Druid this week. I don't think I'm going to go super deep detail on this Artificer until clip there. Until I have the Druid at the same level, because there is always the risk. Happy New Year! There is always a risk of a misalignment in quality of detail. So I just want to make sure that as I proceed, I am able to have the same level of quality of appearance for the two characters that are in the foreground. So I have a little bit of a guilt about having done so much, of having made so much progress on this character off stream. But it was mostly just buckles and fabric stuff. Like I still have boots to work on and yada yada. But you saw most of the stuff that I did. What it was mostly was like about an hour and a half of me fretting with these pauldrons, which still need detail work. But I'm really happy with how they're sitting now. I had to stare at a lot of Warhammer footage for me to make sure I got it right. I mean, what a curse, right? to have to pay attention to consume Warhammer content for a couple hours. Such a shame. But I got the thing done, and it did. I'm very pleased with it. So I think it was probably all for the best. Anyway, tally ho, carry on. I'm thinking I'm going to be bold, like an American, and just bond all of this down. Let's go with duplicate group and merge that group, and then body, so I can erase the whole thing in one swath, but it really allows me to sculpt the rest of the form more properly. It is a Happy New Year. I hope you guys are having a great time. My gal's sleeping in, so I know we have brunch plans. I'm not sure when she will rise from the grave, but when she does, I'm going to jump off stream. I just wanted to make sure I was putting in the hours, and before I got any further with this Artificer, I wanted to make sure I was on stream working on it, so that you can see how it's coming along. I am super pleased with how this guy is looking. I don't know how much I'm gonna, until the muse picks me up, I don't know how much I'm gonna actually talk, because I just spent a half hour doing a mechanics walkthrough on the tap on tap burn mechanics that I've built for the 5-color mana spell point variant rules and the elemental key variant rules. So I just had a deep dive into conversation about mechanical stuff. It sounds like I'm not actually too burned out about it. So I could just very well be rambling here for a while. But I wanted to throw that out there. And we will continue our schedule of production. I'm going to be working on this in the mornings as well as on designated evening streams until it's done, because I want to make sure that we're going to hit the 15th deadline, and we're curving into it pretty well, but I could run into a hiccup at some point, and I don't want that to derail the progress. So I'm going to be doubling down on character art production this next week. And where are we at? We're at the second. I'm going to be shooting. I'm going to be shooting for completion by the 10th, before the 10th. So if not, then by the 13th for sure. But my wish and goal is to be done by the 10th. So it's a bit of a challenge doing absolutely everything on stream, because I only have so many hours of stream available to me, since I've got a relationship and a day job. I'm trying to weave in as much stream time in production of this as I can. But if I start getting too crunched for time, I'm going to start taking it offline. Like for the detailed stuff that I had to figure out for the pauldrons, for example, that was time I had to invest, but it would have been severely boring time to be on stream. So fair warnings about that. Trying to be as transparent as I can, with awareness that the deadline is the actual priority, more so than every single keystroke being recorded for arguably boring consumption. So maybe it's entertaining, maybe it's not, but completion is my priority. So I just want to make sure that I'm keeping your goals in mind while I'm taking on the task. So it's been a fantastic project, and I'm loving it. But I don't want to screw up a timeline just because I feel hyper focused on being present on screen. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm rambling because I've had a lot of coffee, and I just talked a lot. And we had fire alarms going off for, as far as we can tell, no reason in our apartment. So it really kind of screwed up sleep. Oh my God. It's we're making ground. We've just about resolved the thing about mass combat systems is that you need to be able to have a language about attack and damage that is going to be robust enough that it can take into account the huge array of scaling challenge rating creatures that are inside of the game, but be a consolidated concept that's going to have the same satisfaction of crunch of 5e combat that you're used to. So the issue is being able to effectively scale combat from a 5-foot square into an arena of that covers miles. And the goal of the project is to accomplish that feat while maintaining 5e mechanics in the game. Like when you play this, you aren't playing a different game. You're still playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's just the scale becomes absurd. So there's the issue of building a language that allows you to simplify all the creatures and characters that are inside 5e so that when you see them in the battlefield, you still recognize them as that creature. Does that make sense? Like, we need to be able to express what is a red dragon statistically in 5e, and then be able to translate that into, well, I've got 500 of them on the battlefield now. So what does that look like? And we've just about nailed down the language about, like, this is what a CR9 creature generally looks like in D&D. So we've created these basic mechanics of individual creatures that is now successfully scaling beyond 5 feet into 50 feet, into 1 mile, into 20 miles. These different scales of magnitude to have combat work but it's still miniature combat. It's still the normal 5e mechanics of, I can move 30 feet in a round, and I've got an attack action, and I'm making saving throws, and all the throwing spells, all the things that you would expect to have in a 5-foot dungeon environment that's going to effectively operate at the 1 mile scale. When I don't have 15 orcs in the room, I've got 15,000 orcs in the city. And so the mechanics work. They're surprisingly elegant. Right now, we are resolving how attacks and armor class scale at the army level, so that you can still feel like you're playing 5e, but again, operating at just this massive scale. So it really does just come down to scaling. That was the most clever part, was resolving how can we represent miniatures on the battlefield in a 5e dynamic that's going to operate effectively on a 5 mile map, so that you can actually do like large overland troop movements, but it all still resolves as though we're a round of combat in D&D. And that's no light feat. Being able to scale from a villager, which is like a 1/8 CR creature, into the Tarrasque, which is like a CR 26 or something like that. But the mechanics are working. It's working. So we're really excited about that. A side effect of being able to implement that system is we can now also provide alternate rules that makes things like animate object, conjure animals, like conjure woodland beings, or like buying 15 war dogs and taking them down into a dungeon to fight fire giants. That all becomes sensible. Like these are things you can realistically do now. and not make your DM hate you for doing it. Like when I run high level campaigns and animate objects gets on the board, like that's a pain in the ass. Undoubtedly, you're going to carry a bag full of forks, and when you cast animate object, you're going to fling out the forks. You now have 10 forks that are flying around the battlefield, all making their own attack rolls. And most DMs just want to tear their eyes out because it's such a pain in the ass. Well, we've managed to resolve those mechanics so that they're actually fast and fun. We've got mechanics that makes being a marshal, like a fighter, advantageous when you're working with multiple allies, as opposed to the spell power that wizards and clerics have by summoning allies. Like it kind of scales in step with each other. So by using these tactical rules, martial characters at higher tiers actually get a considerable leg up in what they can actually do in combat, as opposed to just making sure that the wizard doesn't get hit. So there's a ton of flexibility that's being implemented, and like things like airship battles, or like or in Avernus, infernal machines, or like kaiju combat. These are all things that we can do now. There was an old module from first edition from box sets called Test of the Warlords, where it's all about like a volcano erupts, and like you're given a plot of land, and it's your job to develop it for people to live on. And so it's like a 17th level campaign, and like at one point a volcano erupts, and like 10,000 fire elementals come running down the side of this mountain, the side of this volcano, and they're heading for your plot of land. So you need to gather up an army to fight them off, and like 5e can't handle it. It doesn't have mass combat rules like the original box sets did, because it's moved so far away from the mass combat roots that built the system. But we brought it back, so we're going to be able to do cool things like in Waterdeep. What is it? The Tiamat adventure, where your first challenge is getting to a keep in the middle of a city that's under attack by a bunch of demons. Now, using these mechanics, you can round up the city guard and build a battalion to fight your way to that keep, and thus prove that the guy in charge of that city is like, oh yeah, you just formed that battalion and fought your way here and saved a bunch of villagers in the process. We really should be assigning you tasks to help save the world. It's like, it becomes an adventure challenge that we can offer that actually proves your merit at first level of being worthy of trust. So it's really cool. It's really flexible. There's a ton of stuff we're going to be able to do with it. I've got like 6 or 7 different spin-off ideas. It helps make more sense of renown in Ravnica by giving you like the ability to scale from teams to squads, into platoons, into battalions of Boros Legion angels that you're controlling, and we can put stats on the battlefield of them doing that while they're fighting off Gruul insurgents or Rakdos demon swarms. Like, we can actually have all these different mechanics represented on the battlefield. So if you wanted to have a Boros Legion war in the 10th district of Ravnica, here you go. Here's how you do it. Upcoming product. So I think we can probably put the basic rules in your hands for playtesting if you wanted, as soon as January, end of January, maybe February. So if that's going to work for you, it won't be final rules, but it'll be good enough that you'll grok what it's supposed to do without all the polish and artwork, so you can hammer through it and play with it. I don't mind handing that off to you for you to play with if you have some feedback. When do you think you actually need it? Final product. I expect to be in layouts and artwork. There's a lot more to it than just mass combat. Like there's building kingdoms so that you can create your own armies. There's building thieves guilds and merchant guilds and mercenary guilds so that you can scale from first level to 20th level and actually building the organization that hires recruits and then utilizes these different types of troops. So it's a really large scale. It's probably gonna be like 120 pages when it's done. But when it's done, it's going to be able to provide comprehensive rules of I want to do more than just be a hero. I want to build a guild. I want to take over Rakdos. And so now I have, 200 pain maidens across the planet that are willing to do blackmail projects for me. So I'm going to build like a red room sort of organization sort of thing. You'll be able to do all that stuff, and we'll provide the rules to do it. Sure. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. By mid-year, no problem. If the artwork isn't by mid-year, the only thing that won't be done potentially is the artwork, but it could be published potentially by July. It's just going to depend on how the layouts sit and how much, and honestly, how many paintings I'm going to need to do of 40 horsemen attacking each other. Those paintings are brutal. So I am still looking sideways at you. Sure you want to do that, big guy? I don't know what the layout's going to look like. I don't know what the artwork load is going to be, and I have no idea how brutal it's going to be. But I'll be streaming all of it. So by May, June. The mass combat systems will be fine, and we should already have a lot of playtesting piped through it. I've already done some playtesting for the basic mechanics of it, and it works. Like action economy and actually commanding troops. I've playtested that a few times in my own home team so far. Right now, we're just mincing out the math behind controlling troops, so it's coming along really, really well. I got a smart writer. Ukulele Bard is a DM's Guild veteran who's really smart with numbers and statistics and building probability tables, and so the math is starting to really work out. Right now, we're just mincing ideas about like what's the scale of armor class change when you're trying to attack one guy versus 500 people. Like what's the numbers on that look like? It's not that heavy of a lifting. It just takes time and testing. So it's coming along really well. I'll probably be playtesting this just with randos. I reckon in February. Like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this ogre clan battle. You're gonna be 7th level if you want to try to fight these ogres with these villagers. Play test that out with me and make sure it works, would you? And I'll probably get a couple people to raise their hands. It'll just be some popcorn pretzel bullshit sort of stuff, but see where the system's broken or not. But by February, all the mechanics are going to be locked down, and we'll start being able to find where the holes are. And the system's so elegant that we don't really anticipate needing to make any changes other than just like some tweaks here and there on numbers, perhaps. But the math is really elegant. It's super simple. Even if it's off just a little bit, it's so easy to implement that it's probably forgivable. It's just how perfect do we really, like how much of perfectionists do we want to be before we actually just make the thing available for people to use? Always a challenge. That's not a bad suggestion, G. Thanks. I may do that. I have to have enough stuff panned out so that the artwork is still catching the feeling of the book. But yeah, I could get ugly and personal. We have this scaling system being implemented that lets you, like, if you're commanding your army yourself, there's these breach mechanics that we're still resolving them, but the intent there is that during the round of, like, if you've got 5,000 troops versus 5,000 troops, you can during that larger combat, you can, like, zoom in the battlefield to the front line where your characters are, like, punching through the enemy wall to try to get to, like the undead shaman or whatever that's at the back end of this thing, pushing troops across the field, so that you can, like, zoom in and then, like, have some, like, real up close visceral combat with your character, where your character makes a difference, and then you can zoom out and see how that battle inside of the two units locked in battle, how that personal skirmish zooms out and affects the full battlefield at a larger scale. So it's super cool. Like, you could not bother with it, but you can, like, use a battle as an excuse to, like, zoom in and close personal and really just bloody up somebody. And then after you cleave off their head, you can zoom out and see how morale of the army starts being affected because they just lost their primary spellcaster, and all of their blessings and stuff get dumped, and they don't have any magic, while your wizard on the back of this thing is chanting concentration with his 50 Red Wizards of Thay to maintain like a haste effect or something on your army. So you're just now plowing through people. It's cool. It's really, really cool, and you can make it as ornate or as simple as you want. Like, if you want to round up like a 20,000 man combat, like in a couple rounds of combat, you can do it about as easily as you can resolve a 3rd level fighter combat against a bunch of goblins. It really is that easy. So you can on the fly pan in and out. Like, you could have an ongoing war between, like, Thrain and Droam, and so on a daily level you're doing updates. Like, when you finish your long rest, you're getting an update of where the battlefield is sitting at now, and then you can, like, zoom in. Well, for this next hour, we're going to push our troops to this location, and then zoom in further. It's like, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to punch through this barricade, and then zoom in further. It's like, for the next 4 rounds, we're going to try to kill that captain so that barricade doesn't have any command anymore, so it's at disadvantage against our army that's coming through the line. So you zoom in to cause damage, and then you start zooming out to see what the effects are, and then at the end of the day, it's like, this is how much of a difference our characters made in that war. And at any time you can zoom in and out to be able to see what kind of focus you want to have on the campaign. It's pretty cool. And the real trick is to keep the language clean, so that people that can't think math so good don't have to think math so good. Like being a mathematician isn't required. Keeping the clumsiness out of it, so that it's fast and easy, and most importantly, fun and narrative to use. And we're getting close. We're getting really, really close to having all that stuff locked down. So but I digress. I'm really geeking out about it, and I don't know if I should be tipping my hand that much, because there could be some sort of unforeseen problems that crop up that cause us to have to scratch our heads on, oh, we didn't anticipate that problem, blah, blah, blah. But that's what playtesting is for. It's damn near close enough that we can start playtesting in another couple weeks. So really excited, and we got Adam Hancock is our editor, and he built Balduran's Guide to Building Kingdoms. So he's on board with us, and that adds a lot of smart to the board to make sure that, because he already built like a Kingdom Maker book, and this is ultimately the goal of this book, is to complement that. But also take it in different directions. Like, instead of being focused specifically on building a community, It's more about being able to zoom in and out of that community as a resource, like as a downtime resource for your characters to futz around with, on top of whatever your normal adventuring is. So ultimately, it's going to be very complementary to stuff that's already successful on the DM's Guild. And it's going to, if we do it right, it's going to lean into and really just flesh out that in between space between I'm just a guy that's running the show for 50,000 guys. That makes sense. I keep falling off screen. Hold on, let me get over here. It could be my cord might be weird. If I find myself having slid over, I'm gonna put Cthulhu there, my little C next to that, so it can't move. Thanks, C. You see me? I'm just sitting here mincing on this pauldron. Get out of there, kid. Get back into where I need to be. This has like this wooliness to it, but when it's done, the sleeves should look like chainmail. It's just a matter of getting the right texture. Here and here. But yeah, I'm super excited about that book. There's like 4 books I've got in different stages of production that are all how to say they're all toolkits that any one of them I can, like, when these things are all done, I can then start using those tools to instead of being focused primarily on building more books, instead focus more on demonstrating how they can be implemented in your game. So it's like, it's live stream content. I can go on. It's like, hey, let's build an elf army that's gonna fight off trolls in a swamp, and now we're building wood elves, or like I can take any Magic the Gathering setting stuff and be able to like, hey, let's build the let's build a Gruul clan that wants to put the herd on a Selesnya farming commune that just stole hunting grounds that the Sunken Oak clan used to use for fur trade, for instance. Selesnya came in and took it from them. So now we get to build out the resources in the Selesnya commune. We get to build out the NPCs in the clan, and then we get to look at we then get to convert them into combat capability. Build a map that covers like maybe 50 miles of hunting ground, and then start stationing different areas where the two different guilds are staking claims, and then build a skirmish map of where different points of engagement may be, and then build out the CRs for each of those skirmishing points, and then have at it, Haas, like post it as a combat, like as a warfare combat scenario on the DM's Guild for like $3 or whatever, but build the whole thing here on stream. So that's one of the ideas, like things that I can do, things that we'll be able to do with these books once they're done. So it's pretty exciting. There's some really freaking cool stuff in the wing. It'll probably be 2020. I reckon it's going to be 2023 before it's all finished. But as more and more pieces come out, they just kind of tumble into, like, they kind of build momentum on each other. So it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to. I don't think anything that Wizards of the Coast is going to do in 2024 with the reformatting is going to do anything that's going to affect the command book at all. That the mass combat system that I'm building, because it's its own simplification system that doesn't seem to be contrary to anything that we've seen like in Fizzbands. We'll know for sure once Monsters of the Multiverse comes out, I believe. Once that comes out, I think we're all going to have a really good idea of what formatting Wizards is planning on going with 5e, and we'll be able to make sure that the creature conversions we have for mass combat are going to coincide with that new formatting. So it's exciting. It's really, really exciting. There's another one. It's an adventure toolkit, which has which the only thing that's important inside of that book that might change with 5e is DC mechanics, like difficulty class. The rest of it's just cerebral narrative headspace, like how to organize your thoughts and how to adapt on the fly. I don't think it really competes with Return of the like the Lazy DM, Sly Flourish's work. I would say more than anything, the stuff that we're building with these adventure toolkits is complementary to Sly Flourish's books. It certainly doesn't replace them because he's a heavy hitter, and I would never have the audacity to think that I would build something that would replace his efforts. But I've been in the game as long as he has, so when he offers stuff, it's like I get it. I get where he's coming from with adventure design, but my approach to designing adventures as adventure toolkits is like a step further. Like, I'm trying to talk to the professional DMs that like want to have one adventure that they can use over and over again and still feel fresh. That's what these toolkits are designed to do. And once that's built, then I'll be able to come on stream and like, hey, let's build a random adventure. And then we'll build the maps and the characters and all the bloody blah. It'll be really cool. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree, Ollie. Depending on and that's the great thing, that each character has roles that they can play, whether they're making a difference at an individual level or in helping optimize the battlefield mechanics overall. Like Bardic Inspiration is like so obvious to make a difference in how a battle is going to play out when you are literally inspiring your troops to be more effective against the enemy, and vice versa. The enemy having their own scalds that can make what might be a relatively easy enemy more difficult to overcome. So the level of the commander of the army can have a significant impact on how dangerous even just a low CR threat could be at a large scale. So, but yeah, it's tricky. It's something that we've been working on for 6 months, and it's, if it was easy, it would already exist. And the fact that it doesn't is just that much more of a feather in my cap. I mean, there's been bigger production studios that have attempted mass combat, but I've never seen them really just adhere to the 5e mechanics overall. And it's possible. It's just it takes a lot of work. I mean, Color Mana took me like a year, like took 15 months for me to lock down. And it still has work to do. Like, I only have half of it built. Like, I still have all the martial stuff to do. Like, for fighters and barbarians and rogues, like, beyond Eldritch Knight and Arcane Trickster, there is the other book that I'm working on is like roughly 70 pages of martial mechanics, utilizing mana as a resource to do Magic the Gathering type stuff, like double strike, first strike, life steal, life linking, trample, reach. Like, all these MTG effects that we're used to can be translated into martial mechanics inside of 5e. It's just, you have to have the language to be able to do it, which I spent 15 months building. And now that the language exists and the mechanics are consistently solid in my own weekly game, I can then, like, we've been play testing martial mana mechanics with my Ranger and my Arcane Trickster for the past 10 months. So the stuff is good. We just gotta lock down all the variables and make sure that the math works out and that, it works within its own context. So that's another flagship book. Like I can build when this is done, I can say, hey, let's make a Rakdos flame spitter, and then we make a rogue that has all these flame and mind control effects, and we just build an ad hoc character that utilizes black and red mana to terrorize the world of Ravnica. So once all the tools are built, it allows us to be able to expand on the narrative that Wizards is trying to create through their different IPs integrating together. It's just that integration process. Like if you're going to bring in the MTG audience into D&D, they're like, "Where's my mana?" It's like, I got your mana right here. It's not enough to say, well, you can pretend that when you use a spell slot that you're a Rakdos wizard and you're using red mana. It's like, where's my mana? It's like, I use these spell slots. It's like, it's not enough. It's not enough. If you want a mechanically oriented audience to jump into your narrative flavor, the crunch has to be there to give them the feels. Otherwise, they're just going to go back to Arena. And ultimately, Wizards doesn't care. I don't know how much they actually care, but I mean, the MTG audience are people that spend coin, that pay to win, because they spend coin to get access to more cards that they can add to their deck that they're waiting to pop up when they draw cards. Like each card costs money, anywhere from a penny to $10,000 a pop. So that is a very different mentality in a different audience consumer market than role-playing games, where it's cool depicting myself as a Rakdos Pain Maiden, but for the most part the audience has been content that there is no black mana for them to cast that fear spell with, because they can still just use their spell slot to cast the fear spell. It's just crazy people like me is like, no, I actually want the mechanics, so here's the mechanics. It's certainly a feather in the cap, if anything else. I'm certainly proud of having done that work. It's somewhat successful. There's just not a lot of there hasn't been enough MTG stuff enforced and encouraged by Wizards of the Coast to really lean in and grab that audience. Like if they were putting out, like instead of Strixhaven, if they had put out a whole book that's like a deep dive into the conflict between Dimir and Azorius in Ravnica, like the name of that book would be Mindspace, where you're using blue as your unifying color element, and Azorius uses white and Dimir uses black, and the conflict is between black and white energy across the unifying blue space, and blue being your mind. We're now doing like 1984 Oswellian mind control stuff, where each faction is trying to influence what is actually, like, what news is actually being reported that the citizens of Ravnica can be aware of at all in the first place. Dimir is trying to expose secrets and exploit those that don't want those secrets revealed, while Azorius wants the narrative about what's going on in the world to be consistently following their narrative about the world so they can implement their rules. And that would be an amazing product, but it really helps if you have a mass combat system that lets you convert mass media into a skill challenge of conflicting bards trying to influence what information you're willing to believe, and then have a color mana system that's going to be able to speak in the language of blue, white, and black magic to begin with. And like I said, once, like by 2024, I should have all of those components in place, so I can do things like Mindscape. So I can do things like build a docent toolkit where we are. I'm going to move that blip over like that, and I am not liking the angle. I am not liking. Yeah, I'm not liking the angle of this glove. I'm gonna do this here. I'm gonna work on that curve. I mean, ultimately, it's all gonna be covered anyway. But I want it to be there. I want it to be there so that it's the language will survive in the background. I can do this. Yeah, hey, it looks like I found some stuff to carry on about. Sorry about that. Hopefully this isn't boring information, because I'm kind of on a rant. Apologies about that. I'm just excited. These books are cool. And just the ability to use them together is just ridiculous. Like being able to flesh out the entire like Demir organization, like quantify it as a guild, and then be able to just like actually stat out like how much can they actually do on a day-to-day basis as a large collective or as individual sleeper cells. That's cool, man. That's some cool stuff. Like that's a lot further down the rabbit hole than a lot of people need to go. But for people that like doing that kind of stuff, it's going to be awesome. Thank you. But yeah, this is like the big brain stuff that you can do on DM's Guild. So I mean, once I have these tools built, I can debate whether or not I want to put Mindspace on, like Mindscape, Azorius versus Demir. I can decide if I want to have that on the DM's Guild or if I just want to put that on my Patreon. Like all the rules for these combat systems and guild work and adventure design, it's all going to be 100% preview, because all my stuff is always 100% preview on the guild. Like you don't have to give me any money if you don't want to understand what I'm talking about, and that allows me to talk about, I mean, like, you can go look at the stuff on the guild. Now come over to my Patreon and see all the stuff that I'm doing. And as long as I don't try to publish that stuff on the DM's Guild as well, perfectly kosher. Hey, check out page 35. I'm referencing it here, and here. And here's what we're going to build with it today. Like I can do that here on stream, and then I can post all the notes and stuff about that on my Patreon page, and folks that are into it can pick it up. And but then like the actual mechanics and the rules that go behind that narrative, that'll all be on the DM's Guild, because Wizards of the Coast deserves it. All this mana mechanics stuff, this is all Wizards IP. They have spent millions and millions of dollars in creating these mechanics and IPs, and I just happen to be one of the few guys that like took it that step further. But I still believe in them reaping benefits from the mind space, the IP of it all. So they allowed us to publish, like to officially publish stuff on their platform about, MTG, like a limited set of MTG stuff. Hopefully they're going to continue to expand that. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll come out with a separate Planewalker RPG and they do a deep dive into all of the Ravnica settings. But like Power Rangers, it's still going to be like Power Rangers is not D&D, but it's 5e compatible. I think that's what we're going to see. I think I may have talked about this before, but I'm more and more convinced of it over time. Like the more 5e role-playing games, like nerds, for God's sake, the more things that Wizards gets involved in, the more they're flexing. These are things we can do. Like they could build a Transformers RPG using the 5e engine, And using my mass combat system, you could build Omicron or what? Omicron was that Planet Buster Transformer? Was it Omicron? Doesn't that sound like a plague of some sort that we have going on right now? Anyway, yeah, like I could if they come out with a Transformers RPG for 5e games, it'll be after 2024. So I would be able to take these tactical rules that I'm building and create a city-sized Transformer that has legions of transforming jets flying out of it and attacking each other. And as long as they use a CR system of any sort, then I will automatically be able to convert Starscream's legion of teleporting fighter jets into a tactical squadron, and be able to represent it on a 10-mile map that they're moving 60 miles per round across to fight each other at blistering speeds. Or if I need to, I can ramp it up to hundreds of miles. If you're moving supersonic, maybe I need to have a 50-mile map so that every square is 50 miles and you're moving across 12 of them per round. And you're launching missiles at each other, but it's all going to just resolve using D20 mechanics. Hey, right on, man. It was great seeing you. Thanks for letting me rant. I am ridiculously excited about all these things. And it's cool that I get to push pixels for Haschi's characters while I do it. So thanks for tolerating me, and I hope you have a great meal. And I'll send you updates as I see them. Ooh, man, I'm liking how this metal is kind of. I like that. That luster. Feels really, really good. But yeah, man, toolkits. I think that's the way that DM's Guild creators should be thinking. Not like, here's my barbarian, he does earthquakes at level 14. More like, here's an earth clan. And here's a bunch of different subclasses that lean into that earth theme. Like, here's my druid, he's earth elemental themed, and like you can build out the core of it on the DM's Guild to get eyeballs looking at it that might not otherwise look at it, but then really expand on it inside your own personal sphere, your own Patreon, your own YouTube channel, your own audience. Like, here's my ideas. Here's the product on the DM's Guild. Now look at my ideas on my own stream. I think that's probably the best way to actually do these things. Granted, I'm still new at the game. I only have like 2 years under my belt. This is the start of my third year, and so we'll see if I'm right or not. But I like that space. I mostly like being able to honor the work that Wizards has done and give them where their credit is due, and to be able to pay that homage with dollars. Because I think it's just a matter of time before Wizards gets really serious about promoting DM's Guild stuff, and the more we lean into complimenting where they're trying to go and what they're doing, I think the more it's ultimately going to reward all of us. So, hail the man! Anyway, that's some serious rambling going on there. But that's a lot of philosophy around my building style, and like what projects do I choose to work on versus ones that I will backburn or ignore. You don't want to get too niche when you're trying to build things, because if it's too specialized, it's not going to have broad enough appeal that anyone's going to ever pay attention to it. That's what Patreons are for. That's what YouTube channels are for. Here's things I like really geek out on, And when my audience, when my fellow geeks find it, they can geek with me, and we will geek together through the multiverse. But for more general appeal, you gotta build it to be able to have that opportunity to geek out. Not sure how much longer I'm going to be on. I'm really happy with this glove over here. I just need to flesh that out a little bit, and I'm really liking how the backhand of that is starting to look. Just checking my pings. So far, so good. I lost something here. Better save while I can. Where am I at? There I am. Hi. Oh, shoot. Where's my coffee? Let me go grab some coffee. coffee time. Oh my God, George, are you still here? Bell instructed me to tell you a joke, but it requires that you're familiar with the second season of The Witcher already to get it. So I don't want to do any spoilers if you haven't seen it yet, and I'll hold on to this spicy little observation of hers until you do, if you haven't had the opportunity yet. But we are chomping at the bit to to tell you this one. Okay, so the Nilfgaard, right? Which is the big bad military thing that's going on. We keep jokingly call it Milfgard, MILF. You know, mothers. I'd like anyway. So you get it. So it's the Milfgard. So we keep making jokes about the like what hot girls are in the show, whether they're part of the Milfgard or not, or whether they should be guarded or not. And I think it was the second. Spoiler alert for anyone out there that doesn't want to know. Big spoilers out there. I'll give you 3, 2, 1. Okay, so like it's like the second episode. Yennefer gets is captured, and then she makes her escape with whatever that dude's name is from the castle. Like all the kings are gathered there, and they're going to execute her or whatever. And then she escapes and then gets on horseback, and she's riding out of the castle. And then, you know, fighter guy, what's his name, assassin, he's like standing there. She's like, well, come on. And then they jump on the horse and they leave, right? Do you remember this? Do you know what I'm talking about? I think it was like the second season. I think it was like the second episode. But it's pretty critical because this is what the joke revolves around, like her escape. Do you recall her escaping? Or maybe that was the last episode of the first season. I think it was the second episode of the second season. I watched them in a run, so I don't recall. But let me know if you remember what I'm talking about before I proceed. Right, thank you. Yes. So instead, she like knocks over the fire and sets him free and runs out of there. Okay, so during that scene, there's all these kings, right? There's like 8 kings in the room, and they're all waiting for her to do the thing. They're all like commenting themselves about, is this somebody that we want to have serve our kingdom or not, and blah de blah. And so here's how it plays out. He gets down on the chopping block. They hand her the axe, and instead of chopping his head off, she chops off his chains and then run out of there, right? And and I'm getting angry. And Bell's like, what's wrong? Why are you so angry? And I'm like, there was all these kings in the room. How could she just walk out of there? Where were all the guards? And she paused and she went back and says, look at all those old men. Not a single MILF in the room. No guards. And, there you go. Punchline. Sorry, huge build-up. But the reason the kings aren't protected is because they're not. The reason the kings don't have any guards is because they're not MILFs. So that's a horrible pun. I'm sorry. Big build-up for no reason, but it's just too freaking funny. Too freaking funny not to share. So now that's a running joke between the two of us. Because she leaves the castle and there's no pursuit. There's like no conflict. They just like let her casually walk out of there. It's a room full of kings, and this prisoner just gets to stroll out of there because there's literally no guards there. Where are the guards? They're off guarding the MILFs. Sorry, that's geek humor. Sorry anyone that had to be subjected to that just now. I just had to share. It's too funny. I know, right? It's like, and then like the most recent I think we watched the 4th, maybe it was the 5th episode, and it's like the elf, there's like the pregnant elf in the city, and she's talking to the head wizard chick that led the attack in the finale of the first season. I don't remember any of these people's names. but it's like there's this elf maiden and she's obviously pregnant. It's like, oh well, yeah, she's part of the MILF guard now. she's guarded real good. Anyway, these are horrible jokes, and I love all of you. Please understand my Witcher humor. This is what you're subjective to if you come into my home. And I love chainmail. It is so fun to depict. Oh yeah, no kidding. He's so meta right now. I didn't like him at first, but he just keeps getting funnier and funnier. Haven't finished the second season yet. I'm still working through it. Probably gonna finish it today. I don't even know if the full series has been if the full season has been released or not. It's just we're just going through them one by one. But yeah, this is us catching up with it. And I'm also gonna watch Boba Fett today. So. Am I still on screen? Good. Coffee time. If I have to check if I'm on screen or not, it's coffee time. Also means I need to zoom in a little bit more. Again, my apologies for having to for doing work on this off camera. It's just sometimes I have 4 different mental states as an artist. One of them is a performer where I'm ranting and making jokes like this. Another is a procrastinator that absolutely needs to be on stream to guarantee that I put in the hours. There's another me that is processing sorrow and grief that can hide inside the pixel experience that I absolutely do not want to stream. And then there's just me like listening to videos or like watching MTG streams and stuff like that I can listen to and watch over here on the side. While I'm pushing pixels, so it's me getting my own personal entertainment that I would get demonetized and potentially lose my channel if I try to do on open stream. So there's a couple different modes that I can operate in when I'm doing artwork that I can be productive and get work done, but only 2 of those actually allow me to be on stream. And I've been doing a ton of entertainment and anti-procrastination on stream lately as a whole, and sometimes the other side of the equation has to get served so that I can stay balanced. Otherwise, the muse could run away because she's neglected, and so I have to abide, you know. But that doesn't mean my deadlines get to change. So, ooh, nice. Boba's on Wednesdays, right? Or is it Sundays? I was content with the conclusion to Lost in Space. It's I like how the Robinsons are depicted in general. There was obvious aging happening because they were all kids, and then they aged up between second season 2 and 3 a bit, which I think they handled overall pretty well. Cool. I am super down with that. I haven't checked. There might be a second episode out here in the US already. Don't know. Haven't checked. Still on screen? Yeah. Time to check the copy. I am about to switch over to the Druid because I'm getting to the point. No, I got some chainmail. I got to work on the chainmail here, but then I'm going to switch over to the Druid. I'm not sure if brunch is going to trigger before I finish this up or not. Okay, it looks like I got a little bit of time, but not a lot. So, man, I'm just really enjoying how this is turning out in general. Again, not because this character is necessarily done, but because I want to make sure that I get the Druid to at least this point in the next couple days, if not by Tuesday, because I want to make sure that as the deadline gets closer and closer, that at any point we can pull the plug on it and it's still a good product. So if I can get the Druid to this point within deadline, then any remaining time available, I get to just bounce between these two gnomes and just get them as crisp as I can. Because they're not. This is already pretty close to where this guy's at. He just needs more decals and dents and stuff. Like the pouch work is pretty damn good. I don't need to do a lot more with pouches, but I can do like filigree and like little things like that, you know. Like I can fill this up with little doodads and doobeloops, but I need to make sure that I'm not going to sacrifice the structural integrity of the Druid being completed for these little effects. You know, am I making sense? So I'm going to get the once the chainmail is done over here, then I can safely step away from this for a little while, and then lock down the druid, and then come back here and just really just go hog wild on both of these with whatever time I got left. I think I'm reiterating myself, so hopefully that makes sense and it's respectable. I think that Transformer's name was Omicron, not Omicron. God, this guy's gonna be so sick. Like once I get once I get these lighting effects in here, like stuff like this, and like get his radiance going on and stuff like that, like get the highlights going from the mace. That's just gonna be this is gonna be so chef's kiss. I'm already really pleased with how this guy is looking, but once I start getting highlights and like all the details, oh, so good, such a badass. Okay, that's my cue to skidoo. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this down for the day. It's looking really good. I need to spend a little time on the boots down here, but starting next, by next I mean probably later on tonight before bed or tomorrow morning, I'll probably finish up that boot, and then I'm going to start working on the front on the druid. So this is where we're at right now. I am stoked. I am really looking forward to diving in a little bit deeper detail on here once I get the druid caught up. Oh boy, this is a good project. So I am thrilled to be doing this, and I'm going to catch you all on the other side. So thanks a lot for being here. Cheers.